Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're out the range with something I've gotten a lot of questions and comments about in previous videos, and this is the B&T KH9. This handgun is based on a classic 80s handgun that was manufactured by SITES, and it was called the Spectre. And what's really neat about B&T is, first of all, they have some of the best made submachine guns and rifles out there for military and law enforcement use. But the owner of the company, Carl, has the same affinity for 80s style firearms that I do, with the exception of the fact he can actually make his own. So that's what this is. This is a modern take on an original SITES Spectre 9mm submachine gun, or in this case, just a handgun. There are many cool features about this. We'll show you this handgun next to a couple of original SITES Spectres that I have here with me this afternoon. We'll do some shooting with this, both suppressed and unsuppressed, go over the details, field strip it, and tell you all about it. But right now, I'm gonna put the first few rounds through it to kick this video off. The nice thing about the KH9 is it uses the same polymer magazines that their other subguns use. So if you have an APC9, TP9, things like that, you can use the same magazines. And yeah, let's just shoot this bad boy. All right. Yes, it's awkward as a handgun. It's definitely intended to be a rifle. It's a little bit heavy, a little bit awkward as a handgun, but you'll notice right here it has the mounting facilities for a B&T stock. It's the exact same stock that you would find that they use on their P26, the KH9, the TP9. So this has a lot of parts commonality with the other guns in the B&T lineup. So if you do a Form 1 on this, it's literally less than 5 minutes to install a stock on it after you get your paperwork back and engrave it. So that's another thing that's kind of cool about these. The downside is they only made a limited number of these, as they do when they make 80s versions or new versions of 80s style handguns. And yeah, I believe there's only a few hundred of these in existence. Anyway, let's take a look at the original SITES Spectre and do some more shooting with the KH9. This is an original SITES Spectre that was manufactured probably in the 80s. This is definitely an 80s style handgun that was, you know, somewhat popular back then. But a lot of folks don't even remember seeing these and certainly never bought them. However, as a kid growing up, I always wanted one. So when I got a little bit older in life, I was able to pick up one, or two of them actually. So this is just one of the many crazy 80s guns that I like. The Spectre is unique in a couple of different ways. First of all, I was just checking to make sure that it was empty there. First of all, it's both a single action and a double action handgun. Now keep in mind, I'm calling it a handgun because originally it was designed as a submachine gun that would have a stock attached back here that folds over the top of the submachine gun. I do have almost all the parts I need to Form this gun. I'm missing one spring that would allow me to have an original stock on the gun. So hopefully I'll find that spring someday, and when I do, I'll file a Form 1 on this and then manufacture one of my Spectres into an SBR so I can have as close to an original copy of the submachine gun. It just wouldn't have the full auto capability. But the gun has a really interesting trigger mechanism. Now you'll see there's controls on both sides of the gun. So here you see two levers, and then on the other side you'll see the exact same two levers. Charging handles right here on top. This gun of course fires from a closed bolt. Around 1984 ATF said you can't manufacture semi-automatics with an open bolt anymore, so it does fire from a closed bolt. But what's really interesting about this gun is that this is your select lever for safe and fire. So fire is up, down is safe. And then this lever right here, which again is on both sides of the gun, is a decocker. Hear that? It just decocked the gun. So now when I put it on fire and pull the trigger, it's a long, really atrociously heavy trigger pull, and then it fires. I mean, it is a horrible trigger pull. It's one of the heaviest, but you only get one crack at it. Then you have to cycle the action. So if you first chamber the round and then pull the trigger, you'll notice it has a nice, really surprisingly light trigger pull, but a lot of take up. But the trigger pull is extremely light. In the decocked mode, which is a safety mode, this is how the submachine gun would be carried for people that would be nervous about having a round chambered. They'd have the safety of that really heavy first pull of trigger pull before the gun actually fired. So that's one of the things that makes this gun somewhat unique in the subgun world. Another thing that makes it unique is the fact that it uses what's called casket or coffin magazines. These come in a couple of different flavors. I don't have any 50 rounders. I have a couple of 30 rounders. The one I'm showing you right now is a 30 rounder. But what's kind of cool about it is that it's basically two magazines side by side. So when you load the rounds into the magazine, it'll split off and stagger rounds over here and split off and stagger rounds over here. So you have a very short 30 round magazine. The 50 round magazine, if you can find them, and they're horribly expensive when you do, will actually be about the same length as a standard 30 round magazine for any other gun. It loads just like pretty much any other gun. It has a magazine release right here inside the trigger guard, so you can push that button and pop the magazine out. It's actually really tight. There we go. Because I'm loading it on the closed bolt, so your magazine release is actually right inside the trigger guard there. All right, let's see how this little guy runs with some ammo. I'm just going to do this and shoot it like the way it was meant to be fired. Now, when you're doing this, keep your hand away from the ejection port. You'd be inclined to grab it here, maybe here. I just grab a hold here, but make sure, again, you don't put your thumb out in front of the muzzle, so there's only a couple of safe places to really hold on to the gun while you're shooting it from the hip. Let's try this, though. See if I can walk it on that challenge target down there. And we had a malfunction, which is not uncommon with these guns. This is some of that Browning 9mm. The magazine spring in this old magazine seems to be really weak, especially towards the end of its travel. The rounds are just basically sitting on top with very little to almost no spring pressure. I don't know if you can buy springs to replace them either. All right, so we finally got through it. So, as with most older guns, they can be a bit finicky, and trying to find new magazines for this thing can be a pain. So, yeah, not something that you want to shoot a whole lot simply because it's collectible, not exactly reliable, and that's why, if you can find one, the KH9 is so much fun to shoot. This is the KH9 again. Now you'll notice that there's some distinct differences about this gun versus the original Spectre. Out here, instead of having a fixed front sight, we have 1913 rails fore and aft, so you can put red dot sights on them. You can put flip-up sights that you see here, have quad rails going all the way around versus a ventilated handguard. The charging handle's in the same location, but it's designed quite differently. It looks more like a Mk12 or maybe a Thompson submachine gun charging handle with a U cut through it, so you can see through it with the sights, but it still allows you access to the charging handle, which is reciprocating with the gun when it fires. But you'll also notice that the controls are a little bit different. So here we have the decocker. They've removed the safe and fire functionality. So the only safety on this gun is the decocked mode. When it's in decock mode, over here there's this little tiny window that shows it's safe. It's green. Now when I cock it, you can see that it's not decocked. The hole is just open and black, and the gun has a very light trigger pull. So if I decock it, now the green shows, and you know that the double action will be your first shot, which is heavy, but not nearly as bad as the original SITES Spectre double action trigger. So deletes that second lever over here, but you still have the decocker. You can also pull the bolt to the rear and lock it by pushing this button right here on the top, but it does not lock open on the last round fired. So yeah, this gun's really cool. You know, I already pointed out that it has a side folding stock that you can put on here versus the original one that would fold over the top. It looks like it has something of a Mini-Me type pistol grip on it, so it's a little bit different. And then the magazine well is different. Now these guns will ship with a Sumi magazine conversion kit, so you can actually use some of the old Sumi mags, but I don't have any, and I've been told that the reliability is just kind of eh. It's neat if you have some of the old drums or something like that you want to mess with, or some of the stick mags, but really if you want the ultimate reliability out of the gun, you're going to want to use the B&T magazines with it. So loading this one is just like the Spectre. Put the magazine in the bottom, charge the gun, you can decock it, the window is now green, and you can shoot it just like the original Spectre. Yeah, now the quality on this thing, guys, is through the roof. I mean, it's made in Switzerland. Reliability is outstanding. I highly recommend just running some ball ammunition through it. I wouldn't recommend this thing for anything other than collectors, right? Because there's so few of them out there, shooting it just detracts from its collector's value. So, you know, I'm one of those collectors that shoots everything I own, but down the road I can imagine these things will be worth quite a bit of money given they only imported a few hundred of them. Now there's something else that you can do with this gun that you can't do with the original Spectre without doing modifications to the gun, and that's attach a suppressor to it. You'll notice here on the end it has a 3-lug adapter. And just so happens that I happen to bring out an Octane 9 suppressor with a tri-lug mount. Let's check that out. With my KH9, I'm struggling with whether I want to SBR it or not. I probably will go ahead and SBR it. I hate the fact that I have to engrave it when I do that, but I'll probably do it simply because it's so easy to do. When you get the Form 1 back, literally get on hkparts.net, order your B&T side folder. You might even be able to buy them from the B&T website. When I SBR'd my TP9, I actually picked the folding stock up, which is the exact same one used on this gun, from the guys over at hkparts.net. So what I'm going to do now is take an Octane 9, which has a 3-lug adapter on it, place it on the gun, lock it into place, and now I have some 147 grain Freedom Munitions standard ball ammo, and I'm going to go ahead and just fire this stuff out of it, show you guys how quiet it is. I do not need hearing protection to do this. I'm not going to shoot the steel plate. It's nice and quiet. Literally, the loudest part of the gun is that. You can really hear that when you're shooting it. But the report of the gun, hopefully you guys could hear what I hear. I can actually hear the bullet smack in the dirt downrange. So, yeah, it even likes the subsonics. You know, some of these guns can be quite fickle with the ammunition that they like, and I found that this KH9 is not very picky at all when it comes to what I feed it. But once again, probably the only thing I'll ever feed this gun when I do shoot it is just affordable range ammo like the 115 grain or the 124 grain stuff that I get from my friends over at Freedom. All right, cool. Let's tear this thing down and see what it looks like on the inside. Taking the gun apart is relatively simple. As I've already pointed out, the gun does not have a last round hold open, so the bolt's going to go closed even with the magazine in it. The magazine has magazine releases. You have one here for your index finger, but also over here on this side you have one for your thumb, so if you want to reach up, push the button and pull the magazine out, you can. You have a couple of different choices. Unlike the original Spectre, we have this button here on the top of the KH9. The KH9 allows us to pull the bolt to the rear, push this button down and release the bolt, and it holds it to the rear. You can see inside the chamber either through the ejection port, or I can actually see the chamber from where I'm sitting because I can look down inside it from here as well. So you get a clear view of the chamber from the gun. Now that we've confirmed that the weapon's clear, I'm going to go ahead and let that bolt go home simply by pulling it to the rear and releasing it. And now I'm going to decock it with the lever here. So I have a lever on both sides, again full ambi controls on the gun. I'm going to go ahead and decock it and release that striker tension so it'll be easier to take apart. The two takedown pins are right here, and you'll notice they're recessed into a little cup. That little cup just happens to be about the same size as the tip of a 9mm bullet. So that means I can use the tip of a 9mm bullet to start the pins so that when I turn the gun around, I just put one of them back into place accidentally there, I can pull the pins across until they pop. You hear them stop by popping. If you don't pull them all the way across, you'll actually have a hard time getting the trigger group off and you won't be able to figure out why. So I'm going to pull both those pins fully across, and now this is kind of the attention to detail that B&T is known for. The trigger guard is actually a spring, and it's applying rearward pressure on these pins to keep the gun from having any slop whatsoever in it. So now when I pull this off, you can see that spring that I'm talking about, and then there's a little nub here that it locks into. It's really cool. I mean, it's just that type of attention to detail that really impresses me with the B&T guns that I own. Now that I have the trigger assembly off the gun, I can now take the bolt and striker out of the gun. I should also point out that right here on the front of the magazine well, you have a couple of different screws. You can take these out and use the kit that comes with the gun to make it use SOMI magazines. So I'm not going to do that right now because I don't have those magazines to use with the gun, but that's how you would take it out. You would take this magazine well out, put the adapter kit in, and then you can use those old magazines. I see no reason to. Now to take the bolt out of the gun, all I have to do is put my thumb here and just apply pressure this way on the rear end cap, and you'll hear it pop loose. Hear that little pop? Now it'll come out under spring pressure. And this is these are the two perches for the gun. One is for the striker assembly, and the other is just your recoil spring. Now I pull this out, I can take the other spring out, just like that. The striker comes out. You can see that little green dot that I was talking about earlier when it shows the weapons decocked. Take your striker out, that's what actually hits the firing pin, causes the gun to fire. And now we have the takedown knob right here in the charging handle that we pull it to the rear and lift it out like other submachine guns of similar design. Now I can just hold the gun like this and the bolt will drop right out of the receiver. It's now fully disassembled for field strip cleaning and all that good stuff. So you can see how the gun basically works. This is your striker assembly. The springs go through, one passes all the way through the striker, and that's going to be your recoil spring. Then this spring does not pass all the way through the striker. It stops in the striker, and this is your striker spring that actually fires the gun. The firing pin itself is right here, and it can't be pushed until this striker goes home and pushes the safety out of the way, and now that firing pin is free to move forward. Probably a drop safety of some sort. So I just wanted to show you that basic functionality. To put the gun back together, guys, you just reverse the process. I'm going to set the bolt in the gun. Got to remember to put your charging handle in place. Line that up. You can only put it in one way. And now I'm going to take my striker assembly, set it inside the receiver, and I just like to let it sit just like that. Now I can put the springs on their perches, and it'd be very difficult to put the wrong spring on the wrong perch. Looks like that. And now you can line them up with the holes in the striker very easily. Push this forward and then just push up, and you'll hear it click back into place. And now you have the mechanism put back together again. All it's left to do is to invert the pistol, make sure your pins are fully extended, put it down first like this so the trigger guard can engage with its little perch in there, and push down, and then push your pin across, both front and rear. And now you've reassembled the KH9 and it's ready to shoot. You also have a storage compartment here in the pistol grip, which I haven't pointed out previously. All right, guys, that's it. Fairly simple and easy to do.
I got some Freedom 147 grain subsonic ammunition, with the suppressor mounted on it. Let's have some fun with this thing. That's a lot of fun. I mean, I really don't even need ears. I was just wearing them, but what a cool piece. Should be fun as an SBR.
You'll notice I've locked the bolt open manually to make loading that first magazine a little bit easier. I love this thing. I wish my originals worked as good as this one. Oh, I love this little gun. I agree with Jason. This thing is perfect for an SBR. I'm definitely doing it now. I wish I had two of them so I could keep one original and SBR the other one, but yeah, I'm just lucky to have this one. What a fun piece of equipment this is. The KH9 is really hard to find. I believe only about 400 of them were imported into the United States, but I do know our friends over at Atlantic Firearms have them for sale right now, and they're selling them for $22.49, I believe. So they're about 2,200 bucks, guys. But keep in mind, it's a highly collectible piece because there's so few of them being made. It's extremely high quality. It's a collectible you can shoot, although if you want to maintain its maximum value, you wouldn't want to shoot it. But me, I'm going to shoot everything. But you can find them again over there at Atlantic Firearms. The gun will come in a hard plastic case with a cleaning kit, magazine, owner's manual, and then what we have right here in this little tiny Ziploc bag is the conversion kit to be able to use sumi magazines with the gun. Overall, I absolutely love this thing. First of all, I'm an 80s nut. I love all the guns from the 1980s. That's why I have SITES Spectres, even though they're kind of finicky. But having this gun kind of scratches that itch, and I can shoot this without having to worry about it breaking or getting old, at least not before I die of old age. The gun does come with the flip-up sights you see here. It's all ready for an SBR, which is an absolute bonus. You have your decocker safety with your ambient controls, charging handle on the top, the ability to lock the bolt open when you want to. There's some features on this gun that are improvements over the original design, and of course the quality is way above the original design. So for 2,200 bucks, is it affordable? Not exactly. Is it fun to shoot? Absolutely it is. Guys, if you would like to support us here at the Military Arms Channel, the best way to do that right now is to support us over on Patreon. At Patreon, we post behind the scenes information. We give blowout deals through Copper Custom. We give away $200 worth of ammunition every month, $100 to 2 lucky winners, and that's because of our friends over at Freedom Munitions. And we do all sorts of fun stuff, and you also get to see our videos there days before the release to the rest of the world. Plus, I do answer all private emails and messages. So it's a great way to interact with us. It's a great way to support the channel to keep us growing and moving in the right direction. We're currently embattled in a fight for our rights because of recent events, and we are very active in that fight. Also, please, guys, consider supporting your other content creators on Patreon. We're all suffering from YouTube's demonetization. Just because you see an ad run in front of one of our videos doesn't mean we're getting paid, because we're not. YouTube's being sued, whatever. But right now, that's the best way to support the content creators out there. So don't just support us, support some other folks if you watch their content regularly. Also, guys, please swing by and check us out at Copper Custom. That's our online store. You can find us there at coppercustom.com. All right, one more magazine, maybe two, and it's time to sign off. Does it 80s hip fire? Well, heck yes. Does it take Glock magazines? I'm sorry, guys, it doesn't.